Hello, here are a few slides from our New Mexico audit project to help demonstrate the context of the project. First off, this is Maggie Toulouse-Oliver, the Bernalillo County Clerk, who was critical for making sure that this project happened. And here's Robert Adams, the Deputy Bernalillo County Clerk, and he was also critical for making sure that this project happened. Here's some of our research team: Lisa Bryant, Thad Hall, Lana Atkinson, David Odegaard, Jan Caraval. And here's Lisa and Jan at the table in front of the ballots getting things ready for action. Here's Lisa and Morgan Llewellyn. Morgan was another member of the research team. And here's a close-up of Lisa and Morgan as they're working on the audit project. Here's another photograph of Jan as he's working with us on the research project. Two other team members, Thad Hall. Here Thad is showing us a sharpened pencil. And myself, Michael Alvarez. Here I am demonstrating how the pencil sharpener worked. Now the next set of slides give you some sense for what the layout of the place was and what the context was in which we conducted the audit. These first set of photographs show you what the ballot boxes look like. On top of the ballot boxes were envelopes full of materials associated with that particular precinct. Of course, inside the ballot inside the ballot box were all of the ballots that we were going to count as part of the project. Again, here you can see the vast array of ballot boxes that are prepared and ready for us to use. Here's a ballot box from an early voting precinct. You can see the envelope and materials on it. And here's a photograph of the seal on one of the ballot boxes, so you can see that all these ballot boxes were locked and sealed. Here's a photograph of the basic layout of the facility we were in, with tables used by audit team members. Those are audit team members in the background. Those are the M100 ballot scanning devices in the background there, and the audit tables in the foreground. On the left, again, the tables used by the audit team members. On the right, the M100 ballot scanning devices. Here's another photograph of the M100 ballot scanning devices as they sat waiting for us to use them in our machine counts. Here's a photograph of the M650. This is a high-speed optical scan machine used for high-speed ballot counting. Another picture of it here. Again, a photograph here just showing you some of the tables that the audit team members used and the ballots in the background. Here are some of the audit team members at the beginning of the audit. They're taking a look at the ballot box and signing some log forms to indicate they've taken possession of it. Here are some of the audit team members doing an initial machine count using the M100 voting devices. Here's a ballot box next to one of the M100 machines as it's being readied for use in the machine count. Here's an audit team member. He has just unsealed this particular ballot box and he's looking inside to see what's in there. And this is what you would see at the bottom of the box. Big stacks of optical scan paper ballots. Here's the top of one of the M100 scanning devices showing you what it looks like once the lid has been pulled back. And again, here is another picture of the M100 ballot scanning device. This next photo gives you a picture of one of the audit team members as he's preparing this particular machine for use in one of the machine counts. Here's a photograph again of what the M100 voting devices look like when they were closed, locked, and sealed. Here's Thad examining one of the M100 voting devices as it's being used in one of the machine counts. Here's Thad demonstrating for us how the machine counts actually work. He's getting this machine ready for scanning. Here's Thad demonstrating how the ballots are fed into the machine for scanning in the machine count. Here's Thad doing some more ballot scanning. And the next photograph gives Thad chatting with some of the Bernalillo County Clerk's Office staff about what he's doing when he's scanning these ballots. Here's Lana talking with two of the audit team members about procedures. Here's an audit team member with some of the ballots. I believe he's completing his log form and getting ready to turn those ballots back in. Here's some of the audit team members as they're talking with some of the research staff about what they've just been doing. Here's Thad and Lana doing a hand count on a precinct. Here's an example of a ballot. This is one that I believe the back side had not been completed by the voter. This next slide gives you a photograph of a ballot that looks like it had coffee or some other liquid spilled on it. Here's a ballot giving you the sort of full perspective. You can also see that the voter has relatively lightly indicated their intentions in the circles. Here's a close-up. You can see how light the marks are that the voter left. The next slide shows you some handwritten notes that were found in one of the ballot boxes. Again, I'll talk about this later. This is a relatively common occurrence. Here's one where the voter has made marks in two different ovals, one dark and one light. Here's one, and the next slide also has this. We had a particular precinct where we discovered that masking tape seems to have been used on some of the ballots to mask over possible voter errors on these particular ballots. Here's another ballot that has been completely filled in. It just gives you a sense for what they look like. Here's one where the voter has made a particular indication for a write-in candidate. Here's one where you can see how the voter has filled in the bubbles. Here's one where the voter has made a series of marks in the county sheriff's position. These next two ballots show you examples of ballots where we actually found information that was written on the ballot itself in the ballot boxes. And here again are examples of some of the notes and other materials that we found in some of the ballot boxes. Again, these would be left by precinct workers or precinct judges to explain particular things about some of the ballots that were included in their precinct's ballot box. Again, here's another example of some of the handwritten notes that we found in these ballot boxes. Here's a ballot where we saw a little evidence of some bleeding during the process of storage. You can see the little yellow or little orange marks that are either sort of bleeding marks from ballots stored on top or perhaps from the other side of the optical scan ballot. Here's an example where the voter has, instead of bubbling in the bubble, has put X marks to indicate his or her intention. Another example of the use of the X marks instead of filling in the bubbles. Another example of a ballot with X's instead of completed bubbles. And here's a close-up of that particular method of ballot marking. And here's an example where the voter has really darkened in the ovals pretty thoroughly, and also has put this particular additional mark to indicate his or her choice. Here's an example of a write-in. The next two examples are of a voter again who has very thoroughly tried to indicate his or her choices by both darkening in the circle and providing X's. Here's another write-in. And finally, the last slide you'll see here are just a big stack of ballots that have been counted and are being ready for return to their ballot box.